Ja, Sicherheitslösungen wie die von Vectra, unserem nächsten Presenting-Partner, geht es wohl nicht selten so wie Kriegern in einem Schützengraben. Wie Sie aus diesen Erkenntnissen auch dank AI profitieren können, das erzählt er uns gleich selber. We are excited to hear your stories from the trenches. He just flew in directly from the UK. Please welcome up on stage Martin Baker. Stage is yours.
Danke Miriam and danke InfoGuard. Ich spreche nicht Deutsch, so I will be presenting the rest in English. Thank you. That took me a week. So today we're going to be talking about Tales from the Trenches. So as we can see, my name's Martin Baker. I work at Vectra Networks and I'm one of the senior security consulting analysts. So why Tales from the Trenches and what is Tales from the Trenches? So when I was discussing with my wife about what I was going to present today, she did say to me, you're not going to be boring people with some of your military stories, are you? Which I won't be. This is things that I've learned from my previous experience in my previous roles and jobs, but also adaptable to actually the roles in the cyber defense field that we work in now, which could be described and defined as a cyber defense battlefield. So we're going to look at one of the incidents that myself and some of my co-workers actually worked with and we were investigating. Now, this incident, we're not going to go into each and every single one of the events. This is going to be a high-level overview of one of the incidents that our platform at Vectra Networks actually detected. So we can see on here that we've got our brute force attack. This is on the right-hand side or left-hand side of your screen where we can see we've got the initial access all the way through to a breach on this side. Now, we can see at this stage here that this is a brute force attack. However, as we all know, when it comes to any investigation, any analysis, we don't know at this time. Now, it's also worth me pointing out as well that every incident normally indicates that there are multiple events that have taken place. So the events that have taken place come in the form of the detections within the Vectra AI platform. So the first one that was actually indicated here is where we've got a port sweep. So we've got an internal host that's trying to communicate with a number of hosts internally. We then got a Kerberos account scan, and this is where we've got Kerberos clients that are doing an unusual or suspicious amount of scans within the network. Following that, we've then got an SMB account scan. So this is where we've got multiple hosts where we're trying to utilize the SMB protocol and trying to find accounts on a network. Following on from there, there was another detection where we've got a brute force sweep. And this is where a host is trying to authenticate with the user accounts within the network. Now at this point, just want to emphasize and reiterate that an incident is made up of multiple events. And as we've heard from some of the other presenters today, that when we actually have tools in a network, we're going to have certain tools, we're going to have certain jobs within our environment that are going to be producing very, very similar signal noise as what we see here. Now, this is where the skills come in of what we've all learnt, of what we actually see, of what is normal and what's not normal. Now, what entailed after these detections that we can see here is where we can see a domain controller is actually performing a DC replica sync. Now, this should only be seen by certain devices to certain devices on a network. So seeing an unknown domain controller performing this kind of activity is kind of normal and very unusual. So following on from there, we can see that our host is connecting to another host's SMB admin share. Following on, we can see that the host is also using RPC function calls for possible information gathering from our network. So we're seeing a lot of reconnaissance activity, a lot of lateral movement activity so far. Now, following on, we've then got our host using the SMB protocol to make requests and possible remote code execution, and again, in the form of detections that we can see. So the host then accessed an abnormal number of file shares within our network. So we can see on here that we've got 9 indicators, 9 detections that actually drew the analyst's attention to what we can see. Now again, we can see the attacker progression, the initial access, all the way to the breach. Now, how did we actually work with this particular investigation and this actual live incident? Well, what made it work? 2 words, and it's teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they say. But more importantly, what is actually made up in a team? So it's the troops. Now, within any organization, with any cyber defense, with any defense forces that we always have our troops in an organization. And in this instance, as we all know, it's normally the frontline troops, the teams that people can see, the teams that people interact and engage with on a daily basis. Now, part of the frontline troops that we see, we'll see the security analysts, so the people that are going to be working through the logs, the events that we see, the hundreds or thousands of things on a daily basis, ensuring that what we actually see is actually alerted and reported correctly. The other people on the front line, the security consultants, the people that are going to be working with the customers on a day-to-day basis or meetings or whatever it may be, meeting the customer's needs, ensuring that everything that they have is in place. We've then got our incident responders, and as we've seen from our other presentations today, this takes the form of many, many things. But we've also got the users, and I want to pay particular attention, especially to the users, that people do forget that these people are on the front line. These are the people that are going to be able to report to us. These are the people who are going to hopefully report when they've had that email, promise them that they're going to get their 2 years free gym membership, which obviously does not come to fruition. These are the people that are hopefully going to be reporting. They're going to be reporting without prejudice to the relevant departments and to the relevant teams within the organization. So the users as well, we're going to be actually relying upon these. So when they have reported something, they see something suspicious on their computer, they're going to make sure that they know who to contact in the event that something has happened, or even that they suspect that something's happened, on their computer, or they may have done something wrong. Now, we've then got the rear support. Just want to pay homage to these people, because these are kind of like the unsung heroes in an organization, the people who actually get forgotten about because they're not frontline, they're not customer facing at all times. Now, these people, the security engineering, the people that are going to be making the changes, the people that are going to be adding, removing certain things that we request them to do. We've also got the digital forensics. These are the people who are going to be doing the memory dumps from any items of interest that we've managed to actually get from an incident or an attack. Then we've got our security administrators. Now, these are the people, hopefully, they're going to ensure least privilege has actually been applied on all of the estate, what we actually see. But these are the people as well that we're going to be very, very reliant upon to actually make the changes once we've actually discovered that there has been an incident or an attack in an environment. And then the software developers. Now, these trades, these troops that I'm showing here, this is just a very, very small selection, but these are the people who I actually worked with, along with my co-workers, for this particular incident that I'm showing you now. Now, the security researchers. Now, the security researchers, these are the people that are going to be working on all 4 corners of the internet to find the things, the breadcrumbs about why something may have happened, to actually find the smallest amount of details that their co-workers on the front line have actually found as well. But looking at the security analysts and consultants in a little bit more details for this particular incident. Now, these are the ones that actually detected the initial access to the initial breach. Now, this doesn't mean that they sit there and just look at the logs, and then just look and then go, oh, something's happened. No, they're looking at the alerts, looking at what is normal, looking at a host, looking at their previous behaviors of what they've actually exhibited, trawling through thousands, millions of logs. In this particular one, there was over 7 terabytes of metadata that was investigated through the whole network to find out what had happened. And we're not just looking at the initial breach, we're actually looking at what happened before the breach as well, to pass the information on to the other departments. Now, once we've got what we found, we've got our signal intelligence that we have, we've got our detections. Now, we then need to do an initial triage. Is this a real thing? because we don't want to report false positive to the customers on a constant daily basis. So once the triage has taken place, we then do our escalation to a customer. Now, ensuring that we've got the relevant people who are going to be notified for particular incidents such as this. Now, customer communication, that is paramount, that is key, ensuring that we know who to contact in the event of an emergency, or in this case, of an incident. Now, again, this is just one of many, many things that a security consultant and a security analyst would do on a daily basis, but it's imperative that in this particular incident, these were the main first points that we actually partook in. Now, the incident responders, again, just a collection of what we're going to be speaking about here. Now, the collection of all the artifacts that we're speaking about. So we've got our suspected breach that we've actually got here, but we need to work out as to why and how these things have happened. Now, we can see that we've got these detections that have triggered on our particular host or hosts on a network. But is there anything that's actually going on elsewhere in the network? Are we seeing some other, maybe some intelligence signals that aren't actually causing detections because these aren't actually a build-up of events that we're seeing? Now, the coordination as well. Now, it's very, very important that the coordination is actually handled correctly. And this actually goes with the customers, but also our internal teams or troops as well. So the incident responders as well, they're going to be putting enhanced monitoring in place, such as IOCs, which may have been given from the customer, or from some IOCs that we may have actually seen within the terabytes and millions of logs that we've actually got at our disposal. But also reporting as well, ensuring that the customer is kept up to date, ensuring as well that the customer has full knowledge about where we are into our analysis and into our investigation. And also as well, at the end of the incident, we're given a full report for the customer. And again, just one of many, many things that an incident responder may do. So we've got our security research as well. And as I alluded to earlier, these are the people that are going to be finding out why something has happened. Now, there's many reasons as to why something may have happened, but it's also a question as well about how something has happened. Now, how something has happened at a very, very early stage of an incident is going to be very, very difficult. But with the trawling through the logs, finding little breadcrumbs that an attacker may have left, even down to something as small, as a HTTP user agent that's actually seen in the logs, some IOCs that we've seen. Now, when we come to the when now, this is kind of a hard one to look at. Now, when did an actual attack occur? Now, we think that when we look at the first slide, when I showed you the timeline of an attack, the initial breach, well, it's highly likely that that is not when that attack occurred. The attack occurred way, way, way before this time. This could be anything, just from some simple reconnaissance, looking for some ports, looking whether there's particular things open on a file, many, many things. And in some cases, the actual reconnaissance phase can actually take many, many years. Now, the other troop, which I'm going to mention as well, is the customer. Now, it's very, very important, to actually mention the customer, because we need to have open communications with them. When we find something, we're going to have to, and we know that we're going to be able to report this to them as soon as we can. Ensuring that we're going to give them regular updates. Anything that we see, whether it's escalations, further activity that's seen on a particular host, or even additional activity, the same thing that's been seen on other hosts in the network. But also as well, getting feedback from the customer. We may want some additional logs from them. They may want some additional logs from us as well. And it's important to remember that Vectra is an NDR solution. So therefore, actually getting some EDR logs from the customer as well is going to assist us in our investigation. But to do all this, we need to have a good relationship with the customer. But it's the customer, it's the vendor, and it's also the partners where we need to have a relationship. Now, as we all know, you build trust. You don't just gain trust. And through our trust with our partners and also the customer as well, this is going to give them the confidence to actually rely upon us. So in their hour of need, they know who they can call. Now, in this particular event that we can see here, it actually transpired that this was a vulnerability for a VPN appliance. Now, this dates back to a CVE or a disclosure from 2023, and there was a very, very short time between CVE release and also this particular incident occurring. But again, it's important to note that, again, looking on the right-hand side here where we do have our initial access, the actual breach occurred when this CVE or when this vulnerability was actually, when it was released and exploited. So in this instance, there was a brute force against this VPN that occurred. They were then able to traverse through the network, and where we see our 9 signal intelligence that we have here, ranging from the reconnaissance and the lateral movement detections that we can see. Now, a post-incident, I'm sure we've all had a look at an incident, what's happened. Now, it's very, very important for when we have any incident that occurs that we do. Some of you may be familiar with the term hot wash. Now, a hot wash is a debrief as soon as we can after an incident's occurred. And why do we do that? Everything needs to be fresh because we need to identify any strengths, what was actually done during the incident and during the analysis. We need to find out what happened as well. Is this something that we can actually relate to other customers? Is this something that we can put and then look for particular, especially in that vulnerability that we saw there? Can we actually put these into some IOCs for other customers as well? And what did we do? Well, how well did we perform? Was there good feedback from the customer? Now, regardless of how good an incident was, an incident response, there will always be times on things that worked, but more importantly as well, there will always be areas for improvement. You can have the best incident response plan in the world. However, for that one niche edge use case that's occurred, this is where we're going to need to put in our areas of improvement. And this is just a constant, continuous cycle to ensure that every time that we have an incident, we do a hot wash or a debrief. Now, I'm going to end on the term exercise, exercise, exercise. Now, the reason being, we need to ensure that every single time we get the opportunity for our red teams, our purple teams, our blue teams, when we have in our environment, we've got our phishing exercises that take place, simulated attacks. The reason why we need to perform these exercises on a regular basis is because failing to prepare is undoubtedly going to prepare us to fail. Thank you very much, InfoGuard.
Yeah, thank you, Martin Baker, and for the nice insights and also for coming all the way along from the UK to Zug. I have one question. What is your #1 advice for cybersecurity professionals?
I think wrapping up what I've just said here probably puts it in a nutshell that just practice, 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 and practice for the worst day of your life. You know, when in an environment there's actually been a breach, you need to get all of your drills and skills as slick as possible just to make it so that we can mitigate anything that's happened as the earliest opportunity.
It sounds very negative.
Exercise,
but I think
exercise.
it's the truth, right?
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's something that's overlooked quite often. And you know, when there's actually an incident, it's looked at, it's mitigated, and then just move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know, we need to simulate these things to make sure that we've got good playbooks, good run books.
Yeah.
Just throughout everything that we've seen.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's your applause. Martin Baker.